Everyone talks about the idea of wanting to grow their business, and it is sexy and it is fun, but very few actually talk about the cost of growth. So, what we want to do today is have a very real, very authentic conversation, peel back the curtain, if you will, and kind of talk about the costs that come with growing a business in that growth season.
Oh, we're doing this. Okay, we're doing this.
Yes, we can dive in. One of the biggest costs to growth is time. That's something that might sound cliche, but if your business is going to grow, working just 40 hours a week producing is not going to create the growth. You have to be in a season where you're doing all the things you're normally doing to fulfill your customers and then take extra time out of your time and schedule to build and develop and create systems and operations and train and develop your team to take you guys to the next level. And I think when it comes to time, it's something that we often overlook. We just write it off and we're like, there's not a cost to that. It doesn't really matter. But there are very real, true, and authentic sacrifices that have to be made in that season of growth that I think oftentimes we as business owners, when we make that decision of like, yes, we're going to grow, we minimize or we think it's not going to be as significant as it really is.
Why don't you talk about like the time sacrifices that you made when you were starting Linden Creek? Like, really, what did that look like as you were? I mean, you can go back to as far as when you were transitioning from your own full-time job over to Linden Creek.
Yeah, I mean, the time investment isn't any different today in our new growth season than it was on those early days. Um, I think before I tell you the horror stories of the number of hours that I work and the sleepless nights and all those things, let me caveat it with when you're building a business, the advantage you have as a business owner is you get to choose when you're going to grow and you get to choose when to pause. And so, even though growth seasons are aggressive and they are challenging and they are trying personally and professionally, they are for a season. And it's not that you're putting your foot on the gas every single day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the next 185 years. And so when you go into it with this mindset of like, we're going to push, we're going to grow, and then there's going to be another side where I breathe again, it helps prepare you for your sprint or your marathon, however long it's going to be, rather than feeling that like this is forever. But I would definitely say in those early seasons, you're spending your days, providing to the customer. So you're at an installation from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. You're going to walkthroughs, you're site visiting new properties, you're networking with new clients, doing these things. In my instance, I'm picking kids up from carpool and bringing them back home. And then you get to be mom for a bit, but the kids would go to bed at 7:30, 8 o'clock, and I would pull up my laptop and I would be there sending out estimates, designing for the project that's coming up later in the week, doing social media and marketing efforts because I didn't have a marketing team yet. All of those details until sometimes midnight, and I'd be up at 4 or 5 a.m. the next morning going again. Like there are very real seasons where sleep is fantastic, but you're maybe getting 5, 6, 7 hours of sleep at any given night. But in addition to that, it's the sacrifice you're making on relationships. So in those growth seasons, my priorities are my family first and foremost, but then my business comes second. So these relationships that I would love to invest more time into in friendships and people that I love and I care about have to be put on the side burner sometimes because you don't have the capacity to invest intentionally into a friendship while you're also building and growing and doing all of these other things. And so it comes down to very real and authentic decisions of am I willing to sacrifice these things to see that growth? And there's not a right or wrong answer. There could be a time you go, no, I'm not. I don't want to grow at that aggressive of a level. And that's totally fine. But knowing and understanding that every time you're saying yes to something in your business or to growth, you have to say no to something else. It's not that magically more time shows up on your calendar to be able to do this. And so there's something that's going to have a take because you're giving it into the business.
I've got nothing to add to that. I mean, that's pretty good from a time standpoint. I mean, again, you have to live like no one else so you can live like no one else. Like really, that's the truth.
Ramsey.
That is Dave Ramsey, I believe. Yes. But no, it's just the truth. You have to be willing to make short-term sacrifices for long-term rewards,
Yep.
And if you're a crazy person like us and want to start a business for one, but want to build something big for two, it's just going to take that much effort. One of the things that I used to do when, I was building my own businesses back in the day, and it was in the sales world in particular. But like, you know, always run things through the filter in your head of like, what are most normal people doing right now? And if the answer is they're sitting on their couch, or their answer is they're doing something else, go out and do more. Go out and do more activity, right? Be better, be more, be everything in that way, and it will yield its fruit for sure. But you're right. Like, there's only so much time. So what you do with that time is essential.
Yeah, the second big cost that sometimes is talked about, but again, I don't think there's enough weight put on it, is money and capital. Growth is not typically, when you're investing in growth, it's not the season that you make money, it's the season that you're dumping money into the growth to make it happen. And that can look in a few different forms. That can be investing in key people where maybe the money is not coming into your business yet for these new hires, and you're choosing to take home less money every single month so that you can bring in those key players and have them elevate your business and take your business to the next level. In the staging world, it definitely comes into investing in inventory. I know we got a chance to grab coffee a couple months ago with another staging company in our industry that we love and adore. And, they were sharing their stories of their build out, and they've been in business about the same length we have now. And the sacrifices that they made all of those years, because every penny just got poured right back into the business of reinvesting into one more sofa, one more end table. And do you have to do that? No. But I will say it's really beautiful standing on this side of that story after making those sacrifices, or watching someone else make those sacrifices, and seeing and realizing that something beautiful came from it. But it required sacrifices. It required you to choose a long-term advantage to your financial success instead of the short-term gain that sometimes is really sexy and appealing.
We've talked in other episodes about profitability too, but this is also another reason why you need to be profitable, is so you can have the money that you can reinvest back into your vision, into your dream, into your business, so you can continue to scale it
Yep.
and grow it and keep pushing, because you are going to need capital, you are going to need resources. Personnel is key in our industry. Inventory is also key, right? Being able to replenish that. So it's expensive in a lot of
Yeah.
ways. To your point, not to just regurgitate everything you said, but it's expensive from a time and capital standpoint, for sure.
Love design, but think like a business owner? If you're ready to leave your 9 to 5 and want to do something that's buildable and scalable, check out linden-creek.com/franchise and see if Linden Creek is the right fit for you. Can I share a story on like real life nitty gritty?
Uh-oh. Go
Um,
ahead.
so when I first started Linden Creek, I was really blessed and fortunate. Like, we organically grew very fast. Word of mouth spread and sales were flying in the most beautiful way, but that creates its own challenges. Like, I now need to fulfill and deliver to all these customers that are amped and excited that Linden Creek showed up. And I had made the decision early on that I wanted to bootstrap this business. I didn't necessarily want to take out debt for it. I didn't necessarily want to bring in other investors. I was just going to figure it out. And so in those early seasons, we were growing so fast that I could not get inventory back into my warehouse fast enough to be able to serve a client. I couldn't order it fast enough. And so there was a season, my parents live, as you know, they live in Minnesota. So they are on the other side of the country, and they're retired. So every 6 weeks, they would drive down and they would come and visit me and see how life is and stay with me for a week. And there was a season for honestly about 6 months where they would make the drive down. And they'd show up and they'd be so excited to see me, and my dining table and my dining chairs were like missing. And they're like, Alisa, they didn't say anything. They just were like, oh, that's interesting. And I told my kids, I was like, this is the dance party room, because there's like a chandelier because it's a dining room. And so we would have dance parties in there because I was worried they'd like think we were poor and it was going to be sad. And so I like made up this story, like, this is our dance party room, guys. And then, my parents came and left. And then the next time they came, we were missing the sofa. And so like in the evenings, we would watch TV together to spend time together. And I would sit on the floor because I didn't have a sofa, because my sofa was like staged in somebody's house because I couldn't get my hands on a sofa fast enough. And they were like, Alisa, are you doing okay? Like, do you need extra money for food? Like, your furniture is disappearing. And I was like, no, 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 it's fine. It's just the business is growing. It is what it is. It's fine. And the next time they came, like, we were missing our breakfast table. So now, like, we literally don't have a table to eat our food on when I'm like making them dinners. And so we're eating out on the picnic table, which is fine until it rains. And then we're like having some version of eating a picnic on the floor. And it continued like that for like 6 months. It was like, what random piece of furniture is Alisa missing from her house this time? And then they're at this place where finally the house was fully furnished and they came and my mom hugged me and she was like, I'm just so glad you're not broke anymore. But it's like those are the real life sacrifices that are part of reality. But I would go back and do it all over again because choosing to not have a sofa for a few months to reinvest back into serving a client so we could grow the business faster was absolutely the right decision in that season. They had no idea they were using my sofa, but nonetheless, like it was a season of growth and development that was just necessary that got us to where we are today.
I think when I last checked, you own 184 sofas now.
Yeah, so I won't run out of
Yeah,
sofas anymore.
we're good in that department.
That's
We're
correct.
good.
The last place where there's like really a costing growth to me is around focus. It's amazing when you try to push and do something new and sort of level up your business. That's when things start to break, right?
Mhm.
You see it breaking communication, quality control, whatever it may be, and so it's this moment where like you're already trying to do something big, and then fires start coming out of the woodwork because you're like, I planned for this, but I didn't see that coming. And so it's a decision of which fires do I put out because they need instant answers right now? Which ones can keep burning slowly so that I can actually fix the bigger problem as to why these fires are coming up? And so your attention and your time is pulled so many different ways in this season of growth because you're figuring out something new. You might be 80% of the way there with your theory, but that doesn't mean that you know what it's going to look like in a practical application. And so choosing the fire to put out versus the one to keep burning is like a very real practice that has to happen in that growth season.
Yeah, prioritizing, right? Prioritizing what's most important. I think some of the things that we prioritize first and foremost are existing relationships. So if a client needs something, right, you're really jumping to fix if there's a fire to be put out. I would say that's important,
Yep.
right? Because you're going to value that relationship. Another priority would be anything that's going to generate revenue, right? Because you need the resources, as we've talked about. So those are just two of the top ones. And then from there, you just kind of filter out what you need to. But, if you feel like everything is urgent, then you're frantic. And that just dominoes to your team, that dominoes to your customer experience, right? So really being able to just calmly prioritize what's most important will allow you to address those fires piece by piece.
Yeah, and I think it allows you to also see like, are there repeatable fires that are happening? Like there was
Yeah.
a season where it was like our dining tables kept getting dinged up and scratched, and we'd find out when we got to the property. And that's a really bad time to find out that your dining table has a scratch,
Mhm.
right? Because now you go, cool, furniture marker, let's pray to God that it works. But what if it doesn't? And so if you start seeing those similar patterns, then you go, pause, there's something broken bigger in the system somewhere else. So maybe we need to make sure there's a quality control check before a piece of furniture moves onto the truck. I mean, candidly, we had scenarios where sometimes the solution's easier than you think. We had an issue in our warehouse where the lighting was so poor that the team just didn't see these things. So we upgraded our lighting and ta-da, like all of it changed overnight because we were actually able to see what we were looking at.
Right.
So sometimes it's not this like, oh, massive system rewrite. Sometimes it's something as simple as brighter lights in your warehouse that can solve some of these issues.
And I think to focus as well, right? This is something that you teach a lot to our franchise owners, and I think it's just good for practical business application. But focus on your why, right? When it gets overwhelming, because it certainly will, particularly in a growth phase, when just everything's coming at you and you get to the edge and you want to throw your hands up, right? Remember what your why is and why you started this journey on purpose. And that'll ground you, that'll center you, help you to just kind of calm and gather yourself and then keep moving forward.
Yeah, the why is a huge part. Your growth season is when you're going to be the most tested. It's when it's the most challenging every time, hands down. But if you cling to that why, you figure out your why well before you need it, and you hold on to that tightly in that season. It's amazing that change and that transformation. I mean, for me, transparently, in this season of who Linden Creek is, my why through and through is I I remember that moment I decided to franchise, and I remember how much I loved the beauty of my life, every aspect of it. The work-life balance, the decision for the flexibility, the industry I was in, the team that I had, and I just thought it's so selfish to hold that to myself, but if somebody else can feel this way too, that's fulfilling to me. And so of course, we went down the franchise journey, all of those things, but allowing other people to have that same feeling that I had in that moment is through and through my why. Like, I want to impact their lives in the most beautiful way where they look back and they see this journey and they go, that was the best decision I ever made because I love who my life is today and what it looks like in the day to day. We got an email from one of our owners this past week, and she had a exciting success story. Somebody that she had strongly admired in the industry reached out and had complimented her work and what she was doing, and she was kind enough to share that with us. And it's those little moments that are like fuel to somebody when it syncs with their why, when it gives them that resounding, like, all of this hard work that you're doing to grow is in the right direction, in the right step, because you're seeing the fruition of your why. And so the other thing that I would say is, like, know your why, but take those moments where the why is becoming a reality and hold them tight to your heart, because you're going to need to hold on to them in those trying times.
Can we help the people out for a second?
Sure.
Sure. That was a great accent, whatever that was.
I don't know what it was.
You mentioned the phrase work-life balance, and I think in today's world, that's really played up a lot. Talk about what work-life balance actually looks like in conjunction with the sacrifice as you're growing a business. You may not have balance, right?
I think balance is not a realistic word in this ever, to be honest. I think it is juggling, and I think it's two things. I think when you're a business owner, work and life don't go like this. It's not one or the other. Oftentimes it's this. It's, I am working while my family is there, or my family is there while there is work happening. It's this blended sort of scenario. But when you are growing, you have to go into it knowing there are probably sacrifices, like we talked about, you're going to make, where the business might take a bigger position of your life than your family in seasons, and that's okay if it's for a season.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay if it's not forever. It's also helpful to communicate openly to your family and the ones that you care most about that, like, this is a journey you're going through, but there's an end to it. That there's going to be this moment of, like, hey, mom's putting her head down. We are going to try to accomplish X, Y, and Z. I think it's going to take 18 months, but when we get to the other side, this is what life is going to look like. And this is the quote unquote balance that we're going to have and the flexibility that we're going to have. But setting those expectations for your family as you go through that growth season is so hugely important, because then they're by your side. They're not just going, wait, what happened? Why don't we have as much time? And I think in that growth season, when you do have your quality time with your family, it forces you to be more intentional with it. It's cherishing those conversations, those moments, building memories intentionally in those moments, where it's almost sometimes like you pack more into those encounters than you would if they're there all the time and you're just taking it for granted.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah. So, I think growth is beautiful. I've done it several times throughout this journey in my business, and I have enjoyed the experience as a whole. But I think it shouldn't go without saying that it's at the cost of something else always. And so before you dive into, like, a heavy growth season, make sure that you're prepared for what it's going to take. Make sure you're ready for it. You're communicating it to the people that you care about and that you love most, so that you can dive in, get the job done, and get to the other side of it. If this is something that was relatable to you, that kind of helped give you a perspective as you're in your own growth journey or considering pursuing one, subscribe. That gives us indication of what kind of information you want to hear more about. But we love having these open conversations. We love sharing a little bit about our journey and what brought us there. Closing thoughts, Mr. Sparks.
This is In Good Space.